Yeah, here we are at Kenari Groves, which is a 20-acre mixed tropical fruit grove in Loxahatchee, Florida. It's one of perhaps the most successful commercial tropical fruit groves. In the tour of the property, we're going to see lychee, which is the primary fruit that's grown here, longan, jackfruit, sapodilla, canistel, jujube, banana, Thai banana, and Gongura, which is sorrel. During the tour, we'll cover most of the areas of the grove. We'll look at some of the trees, and we'll discuss some background on the types of tropical fruit, as well as the economic importance and market significance of these tropical fruits. Anyway, let the tour begin. Mauritius lychee tree. The Mauritius tree is perhaps the most productive of the lychees. This grove is primarily two varieties: the Mauritius lychee, which is named after the island of Mauritius, and the brewster lychee tree, which was actually the first lychee introduced in Florida by the Reverend William Brewster back around 1900. These trees typically, as we'll see in this grove, are extraordinarily productive. I would expect this tree to probably produce 200 or 300 pounds of fruit. You can see from looking at the bloom that a lychee tree has both male and female flowers in it. You only need one type of tree because it has both male and female flowers to get fruit. So I can look at this and I can see that this panicle that's emerging is going to bear very heavily. So just from the looks of things, and you'll see as we tour through the grove that there's extensive bloom this year. And I would expect the crop to be well in excess of perhaps 100 to 200,000 pounds of fruit. In terms of what the market value of that fruit is, much of this is dependent on the availability of fruit in Homestead, but even so, the demand for lychee is increasing every year, and I would expect us to get anywhere from $2 to $3 a pound on a wholesale basis for this fruit. Of course, the fruit would be picked and packed and shipped out of this grove. Typically what happens is, and you'll see this later in the video tour, the barn and the picking and packing area where the fruit are picked, then they're sorted. You remove the culls. They're put in 20, 25-pound boxes. Then we actually have the refrigerated semi-truck pull up to the grove, load it on, and it gets shipped to New York or Chicago or wherever it's going to go. Primarily, the fruit at this point in time is going into Asian markets, but with the interest and growing popularity of lychee, I expect a few years from now that we won't be able to satisfy the demand for fresh U.S. fruit. So anyhow, as we move through the grove, we will look at some of the other tropical fruits here, and we'll give you some background. Over here, the grove is, as I said before, produces quite a few different types of tropical fruits. One of the other fairly large crops that is produced here in Kenari Groves is the Thai banana. This is a very popular banana. All parts of the banana are used. Some of these bananas, you can see, it's late winter season. As we get into the spring and summer, we'll see a lot more activity on these bananas, but all parts of the banana are used. The inside of the corm is popular in Asian cooking. The flour, here's the flour right here. The flour is very popular, and of course you can see the fruit that's developing up here. The grove will produce, probably when all these bananas have been planted out, these clusters of bananas typically are separated into groups of 4 or 5. This is something that has to be done, but the grove will produce probably about, on average, during the year, about $1,000 a week, just from the banana crop alone. Okay, this section of the grove here that you can see that's opened up is where sorrel is grown. Sorrel is a very interesting herb. You've all heard of red zinger tea. It's in the hibiscus family. It's well known in India. It's extensively used in Indian cooking. It's known as Gongura. This is about a 4-acre section between this and the section we'll look at on the opposite side of the grove that opened up after Hurricane Wilma in 2005. Really, the primary risk you have in growing lychee and other tropical fruits are, number one, hurricanes, where you can lose some of your trees, and number two, freezes. We'll see a little further on in this video tour the freeze protection system that this grove has. If we were to put this freeze protection system in today, it would be very, very costly. So this is one of the real benefits of this particular property. This area, after these trees were down during Hurricane Wilma, you do have insurance from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. I think the insurance payout just for that loss of trees was about $100,000. So they insure you both for your crop as well as the replacement of your trees, which is something, and it's very inexpensive. At any rate, sorrel, or Hibiscus septifera, is very, very popular. All parts of the plant are usable. You'll see later on the calyx of the plant, which is edible and one can make beverages out of. The leaves are edible. They can be eaten in salads, but they're extensively used in Indian cooking. The 4 acres of Gongura in the Kenari groves, when it was in full production, was producing about 7,500 pounds a week. All told, that crop is worth anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000 a year based on market value. So, as I indicated before, this just isn't a lychee grove. It has crops that are coming in essentially all year round, which are revenue producing.
See all the bloom. Look at all the bloom on top of the trees. This is going to be an unbelievable season this year. You can see all the fruit coming in.
These are brewster lychee trees. They look very much the same as the Mauritius tree until the fruit come out. The brewster, typically during the lychee season, the first fruits to come available are the Mauritius, which you start harvesting anywhere from the middle of May to maybe the 10th of June. Then immediately following the Mauritius crop, the brewster's available. The brewster is a red lychee, whereas the Mauritius tends to be a yellow-green lychee. It gets red later on as it ages on the tree, also if it's exposed to the sun. But the brewster's a very sweet lychee. It's very delicious. It's a very popular lychee. You can see the bloom is very extensive on these trees. Bees are very busy, and the flowers are just starting to open. The male flowers are opening. You can see this extensive female flowers on this tree, which will lead to a much better fruit set. In a grove like this, it was really well thought out. Every 4th row is a row of brewsters, so that you have this overlap on the emergence of the flowers. So when you have receptive flowers on a Mauritius tree, you have brewster trees shedding pollen. So this gives you a much heavier fruit set on your Mauritius trees. And you'll see as the season progresses that we'll have some of these trees where literally the branches are breaking down in terms of the quantity of fruit on them. As you can see down here, this is a pretty big piece of property. It's 20 acres, a lot of lychee trees.
Huge, huge trees. Full in bloom. Look at all the bees. Gorgeous.
What we have here behind me is an Indian jujube tree. Jujubes are common throughout Asia. They're very popular. The fruit looks kind of like a small apple. It's no relationship to an apple, and tastes somewhat like a Granny Smith apple. They're very popular. It's important to remember that the population of the United States is approximately 8% Asian. This includes people from China, India, Southeast Asia, northern Pacific Rim, such as Japan. So the importance of the availability of Asian fruits, and these specialty Asian fruits, such as the jujube, which on a side note is the Rhamnaceae family, or buckthorn. It's kind of a thorny tree. as I say, this is a very, very popular fruit and has a significant economic value, and it forms part of a component of the revenue that's produced in this grove. So, what we have here is a sapodilla tree. This is in a very, very economically important family of fruits known as the Sapitaceae family. This is native to Central and South America and is a very popular fruit. It's becoming a very important economic fruit here in the United States. More growers are planting sapodilla out. As you can see, it's a beautiful evergreen tree, but it's loaded with these fruit. These fruit take anywhere ripen between 8 to 12 months. As you can see, it produces some sap here. Interesting history about this tree was chiclets, which those of you who grew up during the 50s and 60s remember chiclets gum. They used the sap from the sapodilla tree, this white sticky sap, as the source of the gum, the chewing component in chiclets. Then they came out with synthetic chewing gum, and that pretty much put an end to the need for sap from sapodilla trees. But beautiful tree, very productive tree, and a very high value fruit. This grove produces probably $20,000 a year on average in sapodillas, and they produce this. You get more than one crop during the year, so they're kind of continuously producing. And we'll see another type of tree as we move through the grove. That's known as a canistel tree, which is also in the same family, this Sapitaceae family. Here in the background, you'll see the pond, which is quite important. Irrigation, you can't grow things in Florida in the winter season, which is the dry season, without irrigation. And so we have this pond here. Irrigation is important also in the winter if we have a hard freeze coming through, which occasionally we do. The last few years we've had very warm winters. This year the winter was a little cooler, which is a good thing because you need cool weather to get good fruit set on lychee, and this is one of the reasons why we have such a good fruit set here now. But in the event of a hard freeze, and we'll see this a little later on, we can pump continuously water from this pond, and what happens is the heat from the water being distributed under the trees is sufficient to keep the temperature just at or slightly above freezing to prevent any damage to the tree or to the bloom. And that's one of the strong points about this grove, is it has a very costly diesel pumping system, which is something that which is not typically that common in these groves because of the expense of putting in the piping, in the pump, and so forth. So, all right, what you see here is this tree is by no means dead. This is known as squamosa, commonly known as a sugar apple tree. These trees lose their leaves in the winter. They're deciduous, but the fruit is an extremely delicious fruit and has very high economic value. We have quite a few of these sugar apple trees here, and these are one of the mix of tropical fruits that are produced in Kenari groves. It's in a family of fruits which has some of the most important economic fruits in the world. This annonaceous family. It has the guanabana, which you see the guanabana juice in the grocery stores. It has the cherimoya, which is a very important fruit. It's grown actually in California. It grows at a higher elevation. So anyhow, that is one of the important fruits that are produced in Kenari Grove. We're going to look at